Minnesota Twins split the doubleheader with Chicago today. They take down the series, though, 2-1. We'll break all that down. It's coming up next on the Locked On Twins POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Twins POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Back in the lab, back at it. Another Minnesota Twins POSTCAST episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. You got myself, Luke Inman, at Luke_Spinman. That's the man. He's back. CJ Baumgartner, Twins expert over at Zone Coverage MN. He's on X at BombCJ30. And CJ, before we jump into all the action from today, quick reminder, today's episode brought to us by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB. Use code, this is all lowercase, LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Okay, Twins rained out last night, so we got some double-header action today. Game 1, Bailey Ober on the mound. He goes 6 innings, 6 Ks, gives up 3 earned. All in all, you'll take that more nights than not. However, Twins bats just kind of went ice cold all of a sudden. Matt Wallner only run scored with the late inning solo shot. So Twins lose game 1, snap that 8-game winning streak versus the White Sox with a 3-1 loss. Game 2, just an hour later, Pablo on the mound, 5 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned for him. And that was just barely enough thanks to back-to-back home runs by Brooks Lee and Correa in the 6th. Jeffers with the go-ahead RBI in the 7th. That scored Byron Buxton. Duran comes in the 9th, ring him up, sit him down. Twins split the doubleheader. They take this series, though. They moved to 53-40 on the year, so 13 games above 500. Currently 5.5 games back from Cleveland, who's losing in the 4th inning as we speak. CJ, biggest takeaways, kind of your A topics from both games before we talk about Bailey Ober and Pablo Lopez.
Yeah, just runs hard to come by, which can kind of, doubleheaders are weird. Like they always give off kind of a weird vibe. Either I feel like no team is scoring in either game, or it's like just a slugfest the entire day through. And especially in a ballpark like Chicago, I thought maybe the runs would kind of come a little bit more, but you know, you rained out the day before. You got to play 2. It's a getaway day. There's kind of a lot going on. You're playing both games in the day on a traditional doubleheader. So, you know, it is what it is. Some days are just harder than others. And when you have a game where you don't see the ball well, the first one, and you just basically pick that game right back up where it left off after you maybe get a bite to eat, like nothing really changes. So it kind of, that's, I don't know, it's my kind of layman's terms way to explain that is like, if you didn't really see the ball great in the first game and you just basically continue that second game, you can kind of see more of the same. And it was like that for both teams, really relying on the long ball. And, you know, the Twins get a win. They keep that game, consecutive games with a home run streak intact. That's kind of the thing that they leave. You're not going to beat the White Sox every single time as much as we'd like to do that. And as easy as it feels like that can be, you're going to drop one every once in a while. It's fine. The fact that they split the doubleheader and won the series was all they really needed to do. Dropping both games would have been really, really tough. Not anything backbreaking because the Twins got swept by the Royals last year in Kansas City, but just, you know, some games that you like to pick up when you're in a division race with Cleveland. I don't know. Twins do enough to win. They get the split, get an off day tomorrow, and they go out west.
Yeah, I like it. And you touched on it. Looked like for a minute there, their home run streak, was going to come to an end. Matt Wallner, though, hits that solo shot in game 1, their only run of that game. And then Correa and Brooks Lee go back-to-back in game 2. What's the streak up to now? And when can we call this team Bomba Squad 2.0? Because they just can't stop hitting bombs all of a sudden.
Yeah, it felt like in that first month of the season, and, you know, the whole team struggled, but specifically their power, it felt like they were a team that just could not get the ball over the fence. And, you know, shocker, when the weather's gotten warm, the ball's been able to jump off the bats a little bit better. And they've had 28 games in a row where they've hit a home run, and it's getting awfully close. We were talking about this before we started recording. The New York Yankees have the record at 31 games from May 26th to June 30th of 2019. Remember, the Bomba Squad team, they just edged out the Yankees for that home run record in their own version of a long gone summer. So that was a Yankees team that could hit a ball at Yankee Stadium, juice balls, whatever you want to talk about. And this Twins team has a chance to catch up to them, and they're going to San Francisco, so that might make it a little tougher, but it's been a fun run to get to watch this team. The Twins have had a lot of fun runs, whether it was the 13-game winning streak, whether it was Jose Miranda's 12 for 12, whether it's this home run streak, a lot of fun storylines. It's just been, obviously they've won a lot of games, so it's been easy to say this, but they're just a fun team to watch with all this stuff kind of to pay attention to underneath.
Yeah, and obviously, a lot of ebbs and flows throughout the year, long baseball season. It's a grind, but how dangerous has this lineup become all of a sudden, and how much better could it even get once Royce Lewis does finally return? Like, is this their new identity now? Like, they're officially an offensive team first and foremost all of a sudden?
Yeah, like you said, it is a long season, so there are some things that kind of go up and down. But last year, pitching was the identity of the Minnesota Twins, and this year it's not. Not that they've been awful, but when you're at top 3 last year in ERA, you're likely going to go down, especially losing a guy like Sonny Gray, Pablo taking a step back. They're kind of about middle of the pack in terms of ERA as a team, but like you talked about, this the offense has kind of become the identity, and people are going to say, well, it's all or nothing, home runs or bust. And yeah, they've hit a lot of home runs, but you look at guys like Manuel Margot, Brooks Lee. I know he had a home run today, but you have Willie Castro, some of these guys where it's like, they're not just all about swinging for the fences. There are some guys, Austin Martin's another one of these players where they can just put the ball in play. They can find gaps, hit the ball down the line. And yeah, they're a team that's home run numbers are climbing up now to where they typically are, but they're a team that's put the ball in play, and good things happen when you do that. And then when you can add that power on top of it, it's just an added bonus.
Let's talk Bailey Ober's day, and then we'll talk Pablo's here in a second. Bailey starts game 1, again, 6 innings, 4 hits, 3 earned, 1 walk, 6 Ks. Really only had the one mistake in the 6th inning where he gives up that 2-run bomb. Just, again, unfortunately got 0 run support today. I guess how he'd look compared to expectations coming into today, and then, maybe a letter grade for him today as well.
I mean, yeah, B- or something like that. I mean, he does everything he needs to do to win a game. And if the Twins got 4 or 5 runs of support, we'd be talking about what a great job he did and how that helped the team. But when you're in a situation like that, everything that you do is going to get scrutinized a little bit. But realistically, I know the White Sox aren't great, but to the polls in Chicago, people can hit those balls out pretty quickly. And that's just kind of what happened. So we look on the start a lot differently. There's a lot more run support, but overall, I think if you just take that in a vacuum and say, when you woke up this morning that he's going to have that stat line, you take it almost every time.
Yeah, no doubt, for sure. Pablo comes in for game 2. Obviously, he's been up and down. We're also kind of waiting for him to revert back to the old Pablo from last year. He goes 5 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned, 1 walk, 5 Ks on 90 pitches. Still not like lights out stuff we saw last year, but does it feel like he's just slowly but surely still trying to head in the right direction, or what? What was his letter grade today as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably again in that B- territory because he didn't give up a ton of runs, but toward that second time through the order, just gave up a mistake pitch for the home run. And it's just, you gave up a home run to Martin Maldonado. Like, that just does not happen. Like, that guy only had 1 home run coming into the series. He's got 4 now. His batting average is just above 100. I don't know what the deal is, but I mean, it is what it is. But I don't know with Pablo. I'm a big Pablo Lopez guy. It's just been weird this season. There have just been too many times where things have kind of just spiraled out of control, or maybe just one pitch too many that got left over the heart of the plate and hitters have taken advantage of. That being said, he's a good enough pitcher where he did good damage control and prevented things from spiraling away and kept the team in the game. But in game 2 of a doubleheader, you're probably hoping maybe he gives you a little more innings to kind of keep that bullpen together. Yeah. And again, if the Twins are up 5-2, when he goes through the order again, maybe he does get the 6th inning, but when it's tied up, the Twins just get it tied back up at 2-2, and you were shaky the last inning or two. Rocco, you need to win that last game of the series. So Rocco's going to go to the bullpen in that situation, which is why he kind of gets that lower letter grade.
How does you bring up a great point? How does the doubleheader affect Rocco's decision, the way he's going to juggle that bullpen? Because going into last night before the game got rained out, remember the night before they went extra innings, 11 innings, had to chew up a lot of reliever arms there. So the hope was going into last night that Bailey Ober could go in and chew up a lot of innings, give the bullpen a little rest. They do get the full day of rest yesterday, but now you got to come back and use obviously twice as many arms in one day. So how do you juggle all that as a head coach, just in general, when you got those double headers like that?
Yeah, I mean, typically you do want those pitchers to be able to give you some innings that start the game. The Twins didn't really get that from Pablo, but
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you want to try and, from the pitching side, it's tougher to manage. Again, you don't want to overextend anybody. They got that day off, which means everybody is available theoretically to go. But again, it's that thing of, in a close game when the Twins are down 3-1, are you going to try and burn those high leverage guys, or are you going to kind of save them for that second game? Is the second game going to be a blowout? There's a lot of hindsight that can go into it. Luckily, the Twins had Griffin Jacks to be able to close down the fort and Jorge Alcala to kind of get those 8th and 9th innings locked down for the Twins. But it's tough because if a starter gives you a good outing in one of them, you have a lot to play with, but then you have to pick and choose. It's, do you have to wave the white flag in one game and hope to rally for the next one? You want to get everybody. You don't want to overtax anybody really, but it kind of just depends on how much run support you're getting. The Twins didn't get a ton and they had to rely on a lot of relievers. The lucky thing for them is, and that's why I think Rocco can kind of just throw those guys out there today, is because they have another off day tomorrow. So it's like, yeah, I can use this guy. I can use that guy. It's fine. We'll have another off day where we'll be able to kind of lick our wounds a little bit and come back fresh for the San Francisco series.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, luckily you're right. 2 off days sandwiched in between this doubleheader. A lot of times when teams do have that doubleheader throughout, a long gauntlet MLB year, not the case. You're getting a day off prior and a day off after as well. So that obviously helped out as well. Could we just talk about Matt Wallner here real quick, just for a second? Kind of gets this jail out of free card, gets called back up. Austin Martin hurt that oblique, remember? And he's been doing just everything he can to stick around, man. Spraying the ball all over the park. What's your snapshot, I guess, on his kind of second chance at life here? Because he has looked like the Matt Wallner we got at the end of last year, who was just an absolute beast for this lineup.
Right. You took the words right out of my mouth. Matt Wallner came up, maybe a little bit later, probably end of July last year, just started hitting the cover off the ball and did not give the Twins a reason to send it back down. But before that, he was mashing the ball in AAA a year ago. And it took him a little bit to get going. He had an awful first 3 weeks in the majors. They sent him down just to kind of re-get it, start from scratch, really, and get everything kind of on the mental side figured out, because he's a big swinging hitter, somebody who's going to really go through some highs and lows. And he's got a guy who's going to go through some highs and lows, and you just got to be able to deal with that, which is why they sent him down and gave him some time to figure it out. He comes back up. His 1 home run coming into this series was off a position player, and now he's got 3 on the season. So safe to say he's in the right headspace.
Yeah, no doubt. Great to see him starting to revert back to the norm and the Matt Wallner we got last year for sure. Rocco, report time, favorite or least favorite move or decision from today's games. So game 2 or 3 versus Chicago. Give you a couple more options today with the doubleheader. The Rocco report, it says what?
I think Rocco gets a good job for taking Lopez out of the game early, because as much as I'm a guy who is a fan of Lopez and thinks that he does get the benefit of the doubt more often than not, Rocco Baldelli, again, there's a lot of people who say manages from the spreadsheet, does whatever, but that's a situation where you look at your guy and say, he's my stud. I want to let him go as long as I can, but he's been getting banged up these last couple innings, has had the home run ball. We're in a close game. We need to win this one, and we just need to get some different arms in the bullpen. So it's one where I kind of lean a little bit more credit to, and especially in a doubleheader day where you kind of have to get everybody in. It's just kind of one of the things there that works for me.
Yeah, well said there. Good breakdown. All right, plenty more deep dive from this one, plus nerdy stat of the day. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, today's episode brought to us by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience, the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. In eBay Motors, they got everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to the ultimate peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights. I could go on and on. They got it all. And whether you're into speed, power, or style, they got you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back with all the parts you need at the prices you want. Easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Okay, talk to Lou about the All-Star game a little bit. A few nights ago, Correa getting his third All-Star nod. Obviously, that's great to see. Any other news or tidbits since then we should know or keep our eyes on? I know there's been a little chatter, a little hope that some of these other hot names for the Twins could sneak in as a reserve, talking Byron Buxton's of the world, Willie Castro's, Joe Ryan. Any change, or what's the latest with the Twins in the All-Star game?
Nothing really major to report on, and just kind of my gut level feeling says there's going to be one more Twin that gets into the All-Star game, just because there's guys who, for pitchers, it's like, I pitched too close to the All-Star game. I don't want to have to try and throw without much rest. I want to make sure that I can get healthy. And then that could open up a spot for Joe Ryan. And then there's just injuries. There's just guys who, for whatever reason, maybe just aren't going to take that opportunity to play. And I just feel like Joe Ryan's going to get in. That's my gut level feeling, that he is going to get a spot in that All-Star game. Kind of like Sonny Gray did, where it's like a spot just opened up. He had a good season, and Joe Ryan could have got that nod. I think Sonny Gray got it just because he's the veteran in the room. But Joe Ryan has put up All-Star first halves the last couple seasons. And then the thing is just, last year he wasn't able to keep that up. Can he do it this year?
All right, let's talk AL Central race for a minute. Just catch us up. Twins have been behind the 8 ball from the get-go, trying to play catch-up pretty much all season behind Cleveland and KC. They passed KC a few weeks ago. They're now 5.5 back from the Guardians. It's been a grind this year for them, and not the path or the race, I guess, anyone really expected compared to all the preseason expectations. Is that fair to say the least?
Yeah, I think everybody expected it to be a lot like last year, where everybody's kind of fumbling over themselves and nobody really wants to take hold of this division. And, who would have thought that the AL West and the AL Central would have switched places this season? It's crazy because the Twins just can't catch a break trying to catch Cleveland. It's crazy. Every single time it feels like the Twins have an advantage, Cleveland's won. Any single time the Twins slip up, Cleveland's won. It's crazy. Now, Kansas City's come back down to earth a little bit, which has helped out a lot, but excuse me, Guardians are going to be tough to catch.
What is it about Cleveland this year? Like what has been their catalyst that all of a sudden they just can't lose these games? Offense? Is it one specific guy? Is it the starting rotation? What are they doing that nobody thought they were going to be able to do in 2024?
They're just hitting the ball. It's crazy. Okay. And they're hitting for power, which a couple of years ago when Cleveland won the division, they had the great pitching and they just slap hit, and they kind of played early 2000s Twins baseball, steal, hunt, slap hit, do whatever. This year, they're hitting the ball for power. It's crazy. Guys like Steven Kwan are just having super big years. Their bullpen has been lights out. It hasn't been the starting pitching necessarily. And I haven't looked at their numbers recently, so maybe they're not as bad as I'm saying here, but typically it's been that starting rotation's been lights out. Class A's been good, and they just kind of piece it together from there. But no, they have good starting pitching. Don't get me wrong, followed by an offense that can put up 4 or 5 runs a game, 6 runs a game. Well, that changes the dynamic completely, because last year they just couldn't hit, and it's why they fell behind the Twins in the race. The fact that they can hit and do something uncharacteristic like hit for power, which was a critique for Cleveland the last few years, it's a big game changer for them.
And we'll talk about the MLB draft coming up in segment 3, but now they got the number 1 overall pick next week as well to make matters worse. All right, nerdy stat of the daytime. Give us some sort of crazy stat or fun analytic, Twins related, of course. Lay it on us. What do you got today?
All right, so Byron Buxton, we talk about the Twins, and it felt like they hit the ball pretty hard today, even when they're outs in both games. It felt like when they made contact with the ball, it just was going right to a glove. And then, of course, in game 2, Byron Buxton gets a double, but he gets a double hitting a blooper over the first baseman's head into shallow right field. The ball at an exit velocity of 61.8 miles an hour. Ooh. Now, keep in mind, league average is 88.5. Wow. So he hits that ball about 27 miles underneath the league average rate, gets a double. Then comes up 1 inning later. Runners on the corners, 1 out, and all of a sudden it hits one 106 miles an hour off the bat. Goes right to the glove of the shortstop. Baseball, man.
Baseball, man. Hitting the ball hard, though. That's all you can ask. That's a good sneaky stat there, and something to definitely keep our eye on for sure. All right, don't go anywhere. We've got to preview the last series before the All-Star break versus the Giants. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, today's episode also brought to us by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members to date. And for me and my money, by far the easiest and most exciting way to get in on all the action while you watch your favorite sports and you watch your favorite players. All you got to do, so simple. You pick more or you pick less on 2 or more player stats, and you watch the winnings roll in. Baseball season obviously in full swing, so whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, home runs, you name it, they got it. Take your pick on more or less and add them to your Prize Picks entry today. Plus, they now offer Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account all season long. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code, this is all lowercase now, Locked On MLB, for a first deposit match up to $100. Okay, day off tomorrow, as mentioned. Then it's off to the West Coast again. Game 1 versus San Francisco Friday night. Their last series before the All-Star break. Joe Ryan on the mound for that one. Pretend I know nothing about the San Francisco Giants. What kind of team have they been in 2024, and what do we need to know?
Kind of a team that's been weird, I think. And it's a weird division in the NL West just because the Dodgers are doing the Dodgers things. And it feels like kind of, Colorado's being Colorado. The Diamondbacks have been weird. And San Diego is kind of been up and down as well. So again, they're a team they're in the NL wildcard race. They're a team that can compete. They're a team that's got a few guys that can hit. I mean, they're a team that the Twins should realistically win 2 out of 3 against, but they're not a slouch. You're not walking in to play Colorado. You're not walking in to play Arizona like the Twins did a couple weeks ago. So it's going to be a fun series. It's a fun ballpark to get to go play at, or whatever they call it now on the Bay. And for the Twins home run streak, again, that's a ballpark where you can get some home runs if you go a little towards the poles, but it's a ballpark that gets deep pretty quickly. So it'll be fascinating to see if that home run streak can last. Because again, ballparks play a huge factor into home runs. And that's a ballpark that historically, unless you're going to rip it down the line, it gets deep pretty quickly.
All right, couple quickies to close before we get out of here. I mentioned it, MLB draft coming up next week. Twins have the 21st and 33rd overall pick. I think fans are hoping Thad Levine can pull a Tim Conley here, make some magic happen like the T-Wolves did just a few weeks ago. I guess what's like the biggest need outside of just always draft pitching when you can? And part 2, what type of draft is this kind of class being talked about, I guess? Like, I'm a big NFL draft guy. I know each draft class is kind of different. It's all unique. It's got kind of its own fingerprint, so to speak, with its own, biggest strengths, biggest weaknesses, things like that. What's this 2024 class going to be known for a few years from now when we look back?
Yeah, I mean, this class is, you talked about Cleveland getting the #1 overall pick. And again, it's all relative because this is all speculation, but this is a draft class that's considered weaker than last year. Last year, there was 5 picks that all could have gone #1 overall. Yeah. When you look at guys like Paul Skeens and Dylan Cruz, Wyatt Langford, Max Clark, and then, of course, the Twins taking Walker Jenkins at 5. So even though the Twins had the 5th overall pick last year, they were going to get their pick at any guys who had #1 overall pick potential.
Huge.
Any one of those guys going this year would have been #1 to Cleveland this year. This year's draft is a lot weaker. And again, that's kind of just by the fact of last year's was so strong, but there's not that bona fide, whoa guy in this draft. Now that can all change. Organizations can develop them, whatever. So, that's kind of the thing at the top of the draft. Once you get back to the Twins part, and again, you really can't trade in the draft in terms of picks. There's no moving up. There's no kind of that like other drafts have. So they're going to sit back in that back end of the first round. And based on the way the Twins like to do things, especially on that back part, they do like to take college bats. So look for the Twins that, they could go catcher, they could go corner outfielder. Guys in the back end of the first round, so be like Trevor Larnach was somebody who the Twins took back in 2018. They're a team that's not all the time. They've drafted a few high school guys at the high end, and then they drafted Chase Petty, the guy they traded Sonny Gray for a couple of years ago, a high school pitcher. So it's not that they don't draft high schoolers, but I think their preference is college players, a little more fleshed out. They have a little more data on those guys and just a little bit more experience. They have a quicker path to the major leagues in that higher part of the draft. So again, that's kind of the early thing to look for the Twins.
Yeah, you mentioned college bats. I had to look him up. Matt Wallner, 39th overall pick in 2019, Southern Mississippi, played there for 3 years. So just another good example of that and what you can find kind of in that tier of that later first round, early second round kind of class. Give me one name, because I'm such a draft nerd. Give me just one name in that top 10 that kind of intrigues you the most that I should remember or write down. Like, not a lot of blue chip studs that you mentioned, but just kind of one polarizing name that kind of excites you.
I don't have a name that comes to mind because I'm
I'll,
blanking
I'll
on him.
give you one. I'll give you my guy. I'll give you my
Okay,
guy.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I haven't studied this MLB draft as much as, some NFL drafts that I get into, but just looking at the mocks and read about some of these top 10 guys. Travis Bazana from Australia, the Australian, being mocked in that top 2, top 3. A freak baseball IQ, they're saying. Just a freak student of the game since he was a kid. Grew up in Australia, was always just intrigued, just obsessed with baseball over in America. He's the guy I'm kind of intrigued about. And again, like you mentioned, no clear-cut blue chip stud number 1 overall picks. Sounds like he could go in the top 3, top 5, though. Cleveland could even pull the trigger on him at number 1. So we'll see how that all shakes out. Again, I believe the draft is July 14th, so in 4 different days here from now. Let's end on a high note. You kind of mentioned this already, but just a lot of hype right now with this Minnesota Twins team. The vibes, I know they split today, the doubleheader, but the vibes all in all are just gold in the last 2-3 weeks. What has been your favorite thing to happen or transpire, kind of manifest, I guess, the last, week or so and change? Because there's a lot to choose from.
Yeah, I mean, you could go Miranda because that streak is awesome. Something that hasn't been done since 1952. I mean, are you kidding me? That's like nobody was like that. It's just a crazy stat. It's why baseball is really fun. But I'm going to go with Brooks Lee because his call up is something I've been waiting for all season long. I've been a big Brooks Lee believer since the Twins drafted him. Again, college bat. The thing on him is he has a very high floor. Once he gets here, he's ready. His dad is a Division I college baseball coach. He played shortstop. He's a switch hitter. Everything about him screams like my dad's a coach and I'm a baseball guy. Like he just looks like a baseball player. The things he tries to do, that go ahead single he had on Monday night, like didn't try and do too much with it. Batting from the right side of the plate, just lofts it over the middle infielder's head. I mean, everything about him just screams baseball guy. And I've been saying that for the last couple of years. So to see the early results of have him come up, and for me personally, just to kind of feel vindicated by that, it does feel pretty good. And I feel like Brooks Lee, just based off the type of baseball player he is going to be a fan favorite pretty quickly.
He just passes the eye test, man. There's just no two ways about it. He's got that it. I mentioned this with Lou, asked him the same question. He had the same answer, more or less. Talked about Miranda. That was the A topic, but Brooks Lee not far behind. You watch enough baseball or any sport, really, you can sit down and you just kind of cherry pick some guys that just look like they belong. And Brooks Lee, the lights are clearly not too bright for him. He looks like he belongs and is going to be a very solid MLB pro for a really long time. So a good answer there. Couldn't go wrong really with anything. That's how much excitement has been around this team the last couple weeks. We got to get out of here. Always fun talking Twins with you. Twins split the doubleheader today. They take the series versus Chicago. Day off tomorrow. Game 1 versus San Francisco on the West Coast. That's Friday, first pitch. We got a late one, 9:10 p.m. start. As always, huge shout out to everybody that joined us on the stream. Rest assured, we'll be back each and every game right here to break it all down. Quick reminder as well, got to go check out all CJ's work on X at BombCJ30 and all the work you're always ripping up over at ZoneCoverageMN.com as well. And if it's not too much trouble, go like this video, subscribe to the channel, help us get to 8,000 subscribers. We're so close, and that's always much, much appreciated. All right, that'll do it for us. CJ Baumgartner. I'm Luke Inman on X at Luke_Spinman. We'll see you next time, but until then, signing out.